You're listening to the Spark Radio Network, Internet radio like you've never heard before. Innovation, creativity, and imagination are all said to begin with a spark. So fasten your seatbelt and take the ride of your life and listen for the spark.
You are listening to KLRN Radio, where liberty and reason still reign.
Most writers and radio show hosts know that to connect with your fans, you need to do more than just write books or record the latest podcasts. There are many different elements that go into forming an online platform, but there are also many hidden traps. To make matters worse, solid advice on how to survive the muddy waters is scarce. In the book Hidden Traps, I talk about some of the important issues of working with an online platform, highlighting traps that could put your physical or internet security at risk or be harmful to your reputation. Are your social media posts just links with a few disjointed words, making you look like someone who can't complete a sentence? Did your new website cost you more than you anticipated? Are you leaking your personal contact details across the web without even knowing it? Then you need Hidden Traps. Hidden Traps is now available in paperback and ebook from a variety of retailers, including Amazon, Barnes & Noble, and Kobo. Visit blackwolfpublications.com for more details.
If you're 85 or younger, would you like peace of mind and comfort for your family? We're Final Expense Direct with an urgent message for you. The average funeral today costs over $8,000, but the most you'll get from government benefits is $255. How will your family pay the difference? We can help. Our senior plans start as low as just $1 a day and pay up to $30,000 for a funeral and other final expenses. Peace of mind is easy. There's no medical exam. You'll have lifetime coverage, and your plan can't be canceled as long as you pay your premiums. Call now for free information about our senior plans. Answer a few simple questions and receive approval right on the phone. Plus, call right now and we'll give you a discount prescription card for free. Call 800-553-8687. That's 800-553-8687. Again, 800-553-8687.
KLRN Radio has advertising rates available. We have rates to fit almost any budget. Contact us at advertising@klrnradio.com.
Attention business owners and independent contractors. This is a money-saving message from Tax Mediation Services. If your business owes $20,000 or more in taxes, we can help you today, right now. Listen, dealing with the IRS is no picnic. It's an intimidating and extremely stressful process, and you don't want to go it alone. Our attorneys know every law, every tax break, and every possible opportunity to help you resolve and reduce your tax debt. And if you owe more than $20,000, you may be at the top of their hit list. So don't take your tax debt lightly, because it will not go away on its own. The IRS can seize your bank accounts, your home, and even shut down your business. Call our tax experts today at 1-800-783-0810 and let us deal with the IRS while you focus on your business. That's 1-800-783-0810. Again, that's 800-783-0810.
My son was in the Army back during Desert Storm, but even then he wanted an MBA. He looked at a dozen schools, but only one offered the online education and flexibility he needed while he was in a tent in Iraq. Grantham University. Turns out that Grantham's been delivering affordable, relevant college and advanced degrees for over 65 years. Heck, if they can deliver a quality education to a soldier in a tent overseas, think about the flexibility Grantham can offer you so you can earn your degree too. It doesn't matter how complicated or full your life is. If getting a degree is on your bucket list, you'll want to do what my son did. You'll want to call Grantham. Find out how easy it is to get started on your education so you can check that college degree off your bucket list. Call Grantham right now, 800-910-1370. That's 800-910-1370. Flexible, affordable, relevant. Call 800-910-1370.
Sometimes writers feel lost, unsure why a passage may not be working. It takes another set of eyes to help us nurture our writing into full maturity. At Black Wolf Editorial Services, we strive to enable writers to develop and grow, offering manuscript critiques and line edits through a mentoring editorial style. We also offer assistance on generating a writer's bio for your websites. Black Wolf Editorial Services, nurturing your writing into maturity. For a full list of services, visit blackwolfeditorial.com.
You're listening to the Spark Radio Network, internet radio like you've never heard before. Innovation, creativity, and imagination are all said to begin with a spark. So fasten your seatbelt and take the ride of your life and listen for the spark.
You are listening to KLRN Radio, where liberty and reason still reign.
My name is Jessie, and I'm proud of the life I have, surrounded by military and aware just how big the world really is. I have a unique perspective on life and the world around us. If you're willing to listen, I'll tell you how I see it, and I won't pull any punches. This is my POV, which stands for Point of View. Alright, how's everybody doing out there tonight? Yes, I miss you when we're not talking. And yes, I apologize. I missed last night's show with little to no warning. Well, would you like to know why? Moving chaos. There was a last minute snafu and things just fell out of whack. There's not much I can do when it's something this big. So I did the only thing I could do, which was have to skip the show in order to get things sorted out so I don't have to skip more shows in the future. It was a choice between insanity and chaos long term or insanity and chaos for one night, get it over with, and roll on. So I chose insanity and chaos one night, suck it up, roll on, and I'm crossing my fingers. I know, famous last words. This was the last night time I will have to cancel a show due to moving chaos. Alright. On with the news. Because I know you don't turn... My move isn't exactly news. Alright. We have North Korea and Iran misbehaving again. Surprise, surprise, surprise. Not. Israel attacked a Syrian army post on Thursday near the Golan Heights after a drone incursion. Now, it did signal it would not impede Bashar al-Assad's battle to recover South Syria from rebels, because Syrian government forces, with the help of very heavy Russian air power, have swept through the southwest. Their offensive is against insurgents, and it's expected to turn to Kenitra, which adjoins Israeli-occupied Golan Heights. But the drone incursion was believed to be from Iranian troops stationed in Syria. So, it is what it is, friends, but it still ain't nice. Now, Assad has raised a flag over Dara, the birthplace of the Syrian uprising. And Netanyahu's actually not worried about Assad. He is quite worried about other things, but not Assad. And Netanyahu's basically said, we haven't had a problem with the Assad regime for 40 years. Not a single bullet was fired on the Golan Heights. And that was before the Israeli Prime Minister took off for Moscow. Now, Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu doesn't object to Bashar al-Assad re-exerting control over his country. What he's objecting to is the Iranian troops that are being permitted to set up bases and munitions and use them strictly to attack Israel. Trust me, they're there for no other reason. And Israel wants Russia to ensure that Syrians living on the Golan near the border who receive humanitarian aid from Israel in recent years will not be harmed. And an Israeli official said they do not need to be punished for starving. Netanyahu made it clear ahead of the upcoming summit between Trump and Putin in Helsinki, he is fully coordinated with Washington. We act with full transparency with the United States. And basically, he's taking off for the soccer games. I mean, and then they moved up the meeting in light of the planned summit with Trump. So, Israel's striking back. Iran is misbehaving. It's a classic. Okay, Iran misbehaving on many fronts, I might add. And Netanyahu is claiming that Putin agreed to restrain Iran in Syria. And unfortunately, that's not working out very well. It really isn't. If there was a deal, it is not working out very well. Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu left Moscow Thursday saying he won an important commitment from President Putin. He did not object to Bashar al-Assad's, of course, troops taking over their own country. However, he does take issue with drones entering his airspace and messing with his people. And while Mr. Bashar al-Assad is an avowed enemy of Israel, has taken pains to avoid a battle with Israel, has maintained a truce since 1974. So there is actually a truce between Syria and Israel. And the problem is the Iranian forces are right on the Golan border with Syria. I mean, really. But even if you will move them, 100 kilometers away, the infrastructure is there. And if the territory is still controlled by Damascus, it's going to be a hop, skip, and a jump to bring them back. So it's one of those things. He doesn't have any major issues, but he's also unimpressed with the current handling. What can I say there, friends? And for those of you listening live, I am over in the chat room on KLRNRadio.com/chat. And sometimes I put links to articles I'm looking at, things that I don't have time to get to on the air, things like that. Sometimes I'll put articles I just find interesting in there. So you definitely want to, if you're listening live, on KLRNRadio.com, you definitely want to head on over there. I mean, it's just a thing. What can I say? Now, moving along, what else is going on with Israel? Well, there's always something. I promise. There's always tons of things. I mean, there's been a lot of little skirmishes along those borders, and it's one of those situations Israel can't allow Iran to basically run the tables. And unfortunately, that's what's happening in a lot of cases. Now, there are a lot of reasons Israel always seems to be in a constant state of war. And I will have to get Justin on here to help me sort all of it out. Basically, Israel was formed after World War II. And they have always had a chaos. They went from being embroiled in World War II to fighting for their own country. Quite literally. And Syrians are calling on Israel, calling on Israel to open their borders and let them in. And Israel's kind of going not so fast. Citizens of Syria called on Israel to intervene after Bashar al-Assad's forces took control of Daraa, the birthplace of the rebellion against the Syrian president. They wished some of the people have said they wish the Israelis were there to protect the people under the ban of the United Nations, the Israeli flag, anything, but the politicians need to solve this problem. Well, Syrian citizens stand and protest near the border fence, asking Israel to protect them or to allow an international force to intervene. There are tents of the Syrian refugees, and while Israel is willing to grant any humanitarian assistance, they are not willing to accept any refugees. And a Syrian state flag has been hoisted on the Daraa post office, which is the only government in the portion of the city that had been held by the rebels since the early days of the uprising, which was in 2011. So if you're thinking we've been talking about this for a cool minute, ding, 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 you're a winner. I mean, government forces backed by Russian airstrikes have recovered whole swaths of Daraa province in the last 3 weeks, advancing unopposed by Assad's western regional foes it's a strategically vital region near Jordan and Israel. However, Iran is in this mix too. Iran is more than happy to place themselves right on the Israeli border. And that's not something that makes Benjamin Netanyahu feel safe, nor should it. it is something that should worry him, because Iran will stop at nothing. Iran does not know the meaning of human rights. And I'm going to illustrate that in just a few moments, because there is another story I have just on Iran that is gut-wrenching. And by the way, the IDF on Tuesday, the Israeli Defense Force, transferred aid and care packages donated by Israeli residents of Golan Heights to Syrians displaced by fighting on the other side of the border. The transfer of the packages was done under Operation Good Neighbor, was carried out by the Bashan Division, which transferred them in 2 military operations to the other side of the fence for Syrians in camps in the northern and southern Syrian Golan Heights. The IDF has been providing life-saving humanitarian assistance to Syrians in the Golan Heights, all while maintaining the principle of non-involvement in the Syrian civil war. Hundreds of care packages have been donated from communities in the Golan Regional Council. The aid includes personal gift bags containing toys, crayons, games, candies, and notes from Israeli children, as well as much-needed life-saving supplies. The United Nations fears that between 285,000 and 325,000 internally displaced Syrians have fled since the beginning of the current offensive. Some 189,000 have headed toward the border with Israel. The Israeli Defense Force has transferred more than 130 tons of food, 12.5 tons of baby food, over 75,000 liters of fuel to operate generators, 20 medical equipment units, 77 tons of clothing, 556 tents, and 30 shadow nets. It's a unique and exciting operation. And those living on the border understand Israel isn't the country they need to be worried about. The Bashan Division is responsible for preserving the security of the residents of the State of Israel and of the Golan Heights in particular, and through Good Neighbor Command, it carries out the mission of defending them in partnership with the citizens of the area. It doesn't matter that the neighbors, and this is a quote from one of the residents, and who wish to remain anonymous. It doesn't matter that our neighbors on the other side of the fence have been educated to hate Israel and everything related to it. In recent years, they've actually come to understand that the only country that has aided them was the same one they fear. And I think that is quite a statement. All right, folks. I have spoken quite a bit about Israel. So we are going to move on from Israel. Much as I love the topic, we are changing topics. Yep. We're changing. We are moving on to Iran. All right. First, we always talk about Iran and Gulf oil flows. The commander of Iran's Revolutionary Guard said that Tehran would block all exports through the Strait of Hormuz in the Gulf if countries heed the U.S. call to stop buying Iranian oil. One-fifth of all the world's oil passes through the Strait of Hormuz, from Middle East crude producers to major markets. Now, this is not the first time Iran has threatened to close the Strait of Hormuz. They have threatened to mine it, they've threatened to blockade it. They can't legally do it. And here's why. Part of it is in Oman's territorial waters. In 2016, the guards interrogated and held U.S. sailors overnight after they entered Iranian territorial waters elsewhere in the Gulf. A year earlier, Iran fired shots at a Singapore-flagged tanker which said it damaged an Iranian oil platform and held a container ship and its crew for a week over a debt dispute after diverting it with patrol boats in the strait in 2000. In 2007, Iran detained British soldiers further north in the Gulf. Iran also performs annual war games, tests medium-range cruise missiles and ballistic missiles, and the deputy head of the Iranian Revolutionary Guard Corps, Hossein Salman, said in 2014 Iran could use its cruise and ballistic missiles and drones, mines and speedboats, and missile launchers in the Gulf area to confront the United States. Now, this hasn't slowed them down. In 2015, the Guard Corps staged a drill shown on state television in which a replica of a U.S. aircraft carrier was destroyed with missiles and speedboats loaded with explosives, while the guards practiced laying mines in the strait. There have been periodic confrontations between the guards and U.S. military in the Gulf. They run boats up near our ships and threaten in threatening posture, especially that since the USS Cole incident. And if you don't recall what happened to the USS Cole, I believe they were docked, or they were undergoing a replenishment mission, which means trash was being taken off and fresh supplies were being brought on. And a boat that looked very much like the trash barge comes running up. Unfortunately, it was at higher speed. It was laden with explosives. It burst a hole into the side of the USS Cole, and a number of United States sailors were killed. Yes, a number of them. Now, in all of Iran's capabilities, mines are probably the one that caused the most concern. And Iranian officials say they have the right to unilaterally close the strait because part of it runs through their territory. International law does not agree with them. This is a long-standing debate, and closing the Strait of Hormuz has been a long-standing threat. One that I'm not sure I'd like to listen to anymore. I hate to use a U.S. political analogy, but it goes right up there with the left side or the more liberal side of U.S. politics saying that because X, Y, or Z was done by the Republicans, the world will come to an end. Everyone will lose their rights guaranteed to them by God and the Constitution. Everyone will have X, Y, or Z forced upon them. Who knows? But I don't see it as the end of the world as we know it. I view it as just another threat. Now, U.S. sanctions, well, just put it this way, U.S. sanctions have hurt, but Iranian people have found solace in an unlikely location, art. In Tehran's towering Azadi Hotel, a stone's throw from one of the most notorious prisons in Iran, an elegant gold-carpeted ballroom lined with paintings bathed in soft light. For 2 days last week, dozens of works created by artists who were born and whose careers flourished before the 1979 Islamic Revolution were on display to the public inside the hushed gallery. The classic and modern paintings shone like rays of light amid gloomy news elsewhere. There was a plummeting currency, renewed U.S. sanctions, and protests breaking out across the country. The Tehran auction has taken place at least once a year since 2012, amid ups and downs of the Iranian economy. the 9th edition of the auction offered a temporary distraction for a small group of well-to-do art collectors and a chance to invest in something that might actually hold its value in the Islamic Republic. Some of the art does defy the hard-line Islamic teachings that depict the depictions of the human form are blasphemous, but Iran's clerics sometimes turn a blind eye to secular pursuits as they try to manage the public mood. On the second day of the viewing, 70-year-old Ibrahim Imani, sporting a gray mustache and patterned brown tunic, gazed at a pair of paintings by Eddin Ashugula. The Enigma works depicted two women side by side, holding large coins, their heads resembling colored prunes. Imani, a former model and salesman who acted in commercials in the 1960s, started a company that sold ready-to-wear fashions for women in the years before the revolution. His business did well, allowing him to amass a small private art collection, but he eventually lost ground to cheaper imported dresses and switched to manufacturing polythene-based containers. Unfortunately, that venture is also suffering due to the diminishing value of Iran's currency. The price of raw materials from domestic petrochemical companies have more than doubled. He can hardly make ends meet. For 5 years, Imani's companies earned just enough revenue to cover expenses and his employees' salaries. He had recently invited a Spanish businessman to discuss upgrading his equipment, but is worried that U.S. sanctions would make it impossible. Now he looks at the paintings and sees more than just works to add to his collection. Now, at the prices of these pieces, he's thinking of selling his private collection. In this dire economic situation, my art collection can save me from bankruptcy. Yes, sometimes the currency printed by your government may or may not be the right way to go. And I don't give advice. Sorry, no financial advice. Not from this cat. And Pompeo is continuing to urge allies to cut off all funding to Iran. That has not changed. Alright, folks, I have blown past the time to take that commercial break. So, we are going to pay those radio station bills. And I, hopefully sans Mr. Frog, will see you on the other side.
You're listening to the Spark Radio Network, internet radio like you've never heard before. Innovation, creativity, and imagination are all said to begin with a spark. So fasten your seatbelt and take the ride of your life and listen for the spark.
You are listening to KLRN Radio, where liberty and reason still reign.
Most writers and radio show hosts know that to connect with your fans, you need to do more than just write books or record the latest podcasts. There are many different elements that go into forming an online platform, but there are also many hidden traps. To make matters worse, solid advice on how to survive the muddy waters is scarce. In the book Hidden Traps, I talk about some of the important issues of working with an online platform, highlighting traps that could put your physical or internet security at risk or be harmful to your reputation. Are your social media posts just links with a few disjointed words, making you look like someone who can't complete a sentence? Did your new website cost you more than you anticipated? Are you leaking your personal contact details across the web without even knowing it? Then you need Hidden Traps. Hidden Traps is now available in paperback and ebook from a variety of retailers, including Amazon, Barnes & Noble, and Kobo. Visit blackwolfpublications.com for more details.
If you're 85 or younger, would you like peace of mind and comfort for your family? We're Final Expense Direct with an urgent message for you. The average funeral today costs over $8,000, but the most you'll get from government benefits is $255. How will your family pay the difference? We can help. Our senior plans start as low as just $1 a day and pay up to $30,000 for a funeral and other final expenses. Peace of mind is easy. There's no medical exam. You'll have lifetime coverage, and your plan can't be canceled as long as you pay your premiums. Call now for free information about our senior plans. Answer a few simple questions and receive approval right on the phone. Plus, call right now and we'll give you a discount prescription card for free. Call 800-553-8687. That's 800-553-8687. Again, 800-553-8687.
KLRN Radio has advertising rates available. We have rates to fit almost any budget. Contact us at advertising@klrnradio.com.
Attention business owners and independent contractors. This is a money-saving message from Tax Mediation Services. If your business owes $20,000 or more in taxes, we can help you today, right now. Listen, dealing with the IRS is no picnic. It's an intimidating and extremely stressful process, and you don't want to go it alone. Our attorneys know every law, every tax break, and every possible opportunity to help you resolve and reduce your tax debt. And if you owe more than $20,000, you may be at the top of their hit list. So don't take your tax debt lightly, because it will not go away on its own. The IRS can seize your bank accounts, your home, and even shut down your business. Call our tax experts today at 1-800-783-0810 and let us deal with the IRS while you focus on your business. That's 1-800-783-0810. Again, that's 800-783-0810.
My son was in the Army back during Desert Storm, but even then he wanted an MBA. He looked at a dozen schools, but only one offered the online education and flexibility he needed while he was in a tent in Iraq. Grantham University. Turns out that Grantham's been delivering affordable, relevant college and advanced degrees for over 65 years. Heck, if they can deliver a quality education to a soldier in a tent overseas, think about the flexibility Grantham can offer you so you can earn your degree too. It doesn't matter how complicated or full your life is. If getting a degree is on your bucket list, you'll want to do what my son did. You'll want to call Grantham. Find out how easy it is to get started on your education so you can check that college degree off your bucket list. Call Grantham right now, 800-910-1370. That's 800-910-1370. Flexible, affordable, relevant. Call 800-910-1370.
Sometimes riders feel lost, unsure why a passage may not be working. It takes another set of eyes to help us nurture our writing into full maturity. At Black Wolf Editorial Services, we strive to enable writers to develop and grow, offering manuscript critiques and line edits through a mentoring editorial style. We also offer assistance on generating a writer's bio for your websites. Black Wolf Editorial Services, nurturing your writing into maturity. For a full list of services, visit blackwolfeditorial.com.
They fight and die for our freedom. No one had to ask them to go without a moment's hesitation. For the red, white, and blue.
All right, thank y'all for hanging in there with me while we paid those radio station bills. Now, I'd alluded to a story about Iran. Well, actually, before I get that, let me make a quick announcement. Yes, there has been a second American death in Afghanistan. The deceased has not been identified, and you know I only announce them and honor them with a rendition of taps after they have been identified, which means that next of kin has been notified. I'm sorry, I'm not getting into it until then. So for those of you who've reached out to me via email and social media, you're just going to have to wait. I apologize, but that's the way I do it, to make sure that no one finds out via social media. It's not how I'd want to find out, and I highly doubt it's how anyone would actually like to find out that their loved one is no more. Alright, moving right along. I'd mentioned a story out of Iran that just absolutely appalled me. Yes, absolutely appalled me. And I'm searching through my show prep for it right now. Imagine being punished for a crime you committed as a teenager. But you're no longer a teenager. Okay, here's the story. Iran has been slammed for flogging of a man convicted for drinking alcohol as a teen. Amnesty International is accusing Iran of demonstrating a shocking disregard for basic humanity after a man was publicly flogged following a conviction for consuming alcohol at a wedding he attended as a teenager a decade earlier. The human rights organizations said the man was lashed 80 times on his back in the northeastern city of Kashmir on Tuesday. And this is a statement from Amnesty International. The circumstances of this case are absolutely shocking, representing another horrific example of the Iranian authorities' warped priorities. No one, regardless of age, should be subject to flogging. The child was prosecuted for consuming alcohol and sentenced to 80 lashes. Beggars belief. Amnesty International says the man, who is now in his late 20s, was convicted of consuming alcohol during a wedding he attended around 2006 when he was 14 or 15 years old. At the same wedding, a fight had broken out, one that resulted in the death of a 17-year-old, but the man was found not to be involved in that incident. And that's even according to an Iranian prosecutor. In Iran's Islamic Penal Code, it says the punishment for a Muslim who's consumed alcohol is 80 lashes. The man was sentenced to the flogging a decade ago, but no one knows why authorities waited until now to dole out the punishment. However, the Iranian use of corporal punishment, including on children, demonstrates a disregard for basic humanity. Some of their other barbaric forms of punishment, and yes, I will personally agree and call them barbaric, include not only flogging, amputation, and blinding. Yes, permanent disfigurement in many cases. And people say that our U.S. justice system is harsh and violates human rights. No offense, folks. Look at the competition before you speak. Alright, moving right along. North Korea is acting a fool. Does that surprise anybody? Not really. But they're at it again. They were supposed to meet U.S. counterparts at the DMZ to discuss the transfer of already identified American remains after the summit. Well, North Korea was a no-show. North Korean officials did not show up to meet U.S. officials to discuss the returning the remains of U.S. soldiers killed in the Korean War on Thursday. It's essentially a slap in the face to President Donald Trump. Trump made history by meeting with KJU in Singapore, under the stated aim of denuclearizing the rogue state. Trump didn't get many concrete promises out of Pyongyang, but one that was agreed to in writing, and is significant, was recovering the POW MIA returns, including the immediate repatriation of those already identified. The repatriation of Korean War remains would close a painful chapter in U.S.-Korean relations. It's significant from a historical perspective and symbolic. Hugely symbolic. But North Korea did not immediately repatriate any bodies, and by blowing off the meeting, as it's even difficult, North Korea has shown it can even be difficult over symbolic gestures of kindness. After the summit, Trump really pressed the idea that returning the bodies was a significant achievement. However, and thousands of parents of Korean War soldiers have asked him to get their remains back, because the Korean War took place from 1950 to 1953. It's unlikely that maybe it was parents. However, other surviving relatives would still hold sway. Korean officials say they have identified the remains of 200 U.S. soldiers. Why are they still holding them hostage? They're deceased. It's time, North Korea. Now, one country that has lived up to the agreements of transferring remains, even though they are decades old, is Vietnam. My show prep's running away tonight. Yes, Vietnam has transferred remains of fallen Americans in a ceremony recently, as in the past few days. U.S. service members assigned to the Defense POW MIA accounting agency drape a transfer case with an American flag during a repatriation ceremony. Da Nang, Socialist Republic of Vietnam, July 8, 2018. A repatriation ceremony honoring U.S. personnel that went missing during the Vietnam War was held at the Da Nang International Airport. U.S. Army Lieutenant Colonel Rommel Pajuma and Senior Colonel Nijun Hoon Lung from the Vietnamese Office for Seeking Missing Persons signed transfer requirements prior to witnessing the ceremony. Remains believed to be associated with U.S. servicemen from the war were discovered during the 131st Joint Field Activities from May to July and presented to the U.S. during the ceremony. U.S. service members assigned to the Defense POW MIA accounting agency saluted and took control of the remains, bringing them back to the States so they can be properly identified. The ceremony is part of DPAA's mission to provide closure to families of missing soldiers. That's one country that lived up to its agreement. Now, I've got a couple other things. That's probably your good news for the night, unfortunately. No, I didn't close with it. No, I didn't close with it, because quite frankly, I needed a break from the graphic, violent news. And yet, another gut punch for Japan. Volunteers and rescue workers in Japan have been shoveling through mud and debris hoping to rescue people still missing in the wake of devastating floods that have killed at least 200 people. The torrential rains, which left tens of thousands without water and electricity, hit central and western Japan last week and forced 2 million residents across 29 prefectures to flee their homes. Search and rescue efforts have been hampered by high temperatures, entering their 5th day. More than 7,000 evacuees spent the night in temporary shelters and on the floors of school gymnasiums. The critical 72 hours have passed, but they will continue searching, hoping there are still survivors. Water shortages at local hospitals has forced some dialysis patients to be transferred to other hospitals and surgeries to be postponed. Television footage showed one elderly woman trying to sleep by kneeling across a folded chair, arms over eyes to keep out the light. There's risk of dehydration. Without water, they can't clean things up, they can't wash anything, and there's even shortage of drinking. And there's few portable fans in evacuation centers. Many survivors wave paper fans in an attempt to keep cool. The affected areas are in dire need of rescuers and financial assistance. And the pictures on social media bear that out. In addition to 75,000 police officers, firefighters, and Coast Guards involved in rescue efforts, local municipalities have started accepting volunteers from across the country to help with recovery of the affected areas. In the hard-hit Mabai district, Okayama Prefecture, piles of water, damaged refrigerators, washing machines, and furniture lined the streets as residents use hoses to wash mud out of their home. Unable to join in the strenuous work, a 73-year-old and her husband spent the past 5 nights at an elementary school that had been turned into a makeshift evacuation center. They only have each other and no relatives nearby. They are unable to move large things, and they desperately need volunteer helpers. There's a farmer who who lost his entire mandarin crop and may have to give up farming altogether. These are among the many stories that are coming to light day after day in the flooding of Japan. Now, there's one more story, and yes, it's a sad one. But it was late-breaking news, but I wanted to bring it to you. There was an explosion at a chemical plant in China's southwestern province of Sichuan. It has killed 19 people and injured 12. It's not yet clear what caused the explosion. At Yibin Hengda's Technology, an industrial park several hours distant from the provincial capital of Chengdu. Photos on Chinese social media showed a huge fire and plumes of smoke rising from the facility. China has kicked off measures to improve industrial safety, ramping up checks over the last year, following some high-profile incidents at coal mines and chemical plants. Unfortunately, this isn't the first time I've probably brought you this news. In 2015, an explosion in a chemical warehouse in the northern port city of Tianjin killed 165 people. Last year, a blast at a petrochemical plant on the eastern Shandong province killed 8 and injured 9. Now, I thank all of you for listening, whether you listen live or via Memorex. And I give a special shout out to all of you who join me regularly in the chat room. I think you're outstanding. I apologize for not having a Good Guys with Guns segment, but I was unable to find an appropriate article. All I can tell you is there have been a rise in self-defense classes nationwide. And I'd like to encourage all my listeners, whether you decide to carry carry a firearm or not, take advantage of learning some form of self-defense. I understand that firearms aren't for everyone. If you're not comfortable with one, please don't carry one. If you want to learn, please avail yourself of a local class. On that note, folks, you can follow me on Twitter at Radio Host Jesse. You can email me at the station at jessespov@klrnradio.com. And if you're looking to get in on Coffee Shop, you can hit me up at jessespcoffeeshop.com. And on that note, folks, I'm gone. As soon as I figure out the right buttons to hit tonight. Alright, let's try that again. I'm gone.